people don't think about this stuff. And so all of a sudden, John has 50% of the company, but he's not doing anything.
Here's another question about covers, remixes, samples, and such. What about remixes then? Song is usually heavily reconstructed and chopped. Thanks for the informative video.
I did a full video on cover songs. Okay, so definitely watch that. Okay, this is a very abbreviated version of that. But when you're doing remixes, you're chopping the crap out of the original song, right? Generally speaking. And I had a call with a client specifically about this, and he had such great questions that I didn't even think of. And I'll give you an example. So when you do a cover, generally speaking, keep it in the same format, same lyrics, but then you can recreate, you can put in a new genre, you can adapt it into this whole other thing. Like Orko and I do dark pop music. And so we take songs in different genres and, and we'll make them a whole different vibe, slow them down, speed them up. So you can do a lot, but under copyright law to have protection. So meaning you're good to go. The Copyright Act allows you to do covers and you don't need to go and negotiate with Sony, negotiate with Universal. You get the ability to just do it. And then there's a mechanical license that's covered by digital service providers. So meaning Spotify, Amazon. So you as the artist, the producer, the band, you're good to go. Just make it the audio version, put it on music platforms, and you actually don't have to get any kind of license. That's amazing. But caveat, if you're like, well, it's the cover song. And then, I just changed the entire chorus and put new lyrics, new melodies. It's no longer a cover. You have to keep the thing generally, structurally, inherently what it's supposed to be.
Remixes and stuff, you're chopping up vocals, you're chopping up instrumentals, or whatever it is that you're doing, you're sampling. So just be keep in mind for that as well. I would love to know more about clearing one's music. Let's say a music supervisor takes the time to check me out and is intrigued. They ask me if my music is cleared. I want to definitely say, yep, it's all cleared and ready to go. Here's my proof. How do I acquire proof and get my music ready to be used? Is it a legal document that any old person can download and fill out?
What do you think, class? What do we do when that question comes up? Well, who owns it? Do you have proof? What do? We submit a contract that we signed. Whether it's something as simple as a split agreement, which really is not sufficient. It doesn't cover all the things, but you at least did something. And so, to have something. But if you can have a full length agreement being like, this is clearly what we agreed to and who owns it, that's what you do. And you have clarity.
And making sure that you have the authorization to make the decisions on the song as well. That's super important. Did you hear Ben Jordan, musician, YouTuber, and entrepreneur, recently had their music reviewed from streaming services due to fraudulent streaming activity?
Thank you for sharing, Michael. Actually, I had Ben Jordan on this platform. We did a couple of videos that you can go back to, and we talked about just that. So it was kind of part of the TuneCore saga, and him sharing his experience, what happened with him, and them taking his music down, the fact that he's going to leave that platform, he's going elsewhere. And we talked about stuff that we haven't shared on this channel as well. But in any case, yes, I do know, and you can deep dive a little bit on some of the stuff we've released on this channel. So what's the detriment to giving hired musicians a percentage of the royalties? I want to be as ethical as I can, but all right, Luis, here are my thoughts on this. All I can do is use myself as an example, right? So my Miss Crystal project, when I do songs, I know that eventually I want to license my stuff. I want to sell my stuff. Maybe I haven't yet, but I just want to make sure I have full control.
Right.
So when it comes to giving other people control in this stuff or giving them ownership in this stuff, you have to just think about that. Because what you can do is retain full ownership, full administrative rights, but then give people what they're totally owed, right? In royalties, hey, you get 50% if you were my partner in this. But if they really were a true partner, sometimes it just makes sense. We're 50% partners. So the way you structure it is really, I think, yes, kind of based on your personal ethics partially. But generally as a business, if you're hiring people to come and do stuff for you, you should own it. Why would you complicate it and give them percentages? But if it's a collaborative kind of thing and we really are true partners and stuff like that, I totally am on the same page of have a collaboration agreement. Make sure that's in writing.
Right.
People are so eager to give up ownership of music. They're so eager to give up ownership of their LLC. And they're like, oh, John, who is my friend? I already forgot the name. I'm so tired. Blue, what's his name? John Smith, doing business as Blue Rain. Blue Rain.
Yeah.
I'm back to you, Blue Rain.
That's what we call a callback in the industry.
That's what we call fucking losing your mind because you're exhausted. But anyway, so John and I'm making up his name, but John and I are, doing the deal, and then maybe we're like, hey, let's do an LLC together. And John's like, I'm gonna help you. So he becomes a 50% partner with me. And it's because at the time he's so excited, he believes in Miss Crystal and he wants to help and all this stuff. And I give him 50% of the company. And then he like gets a girlfriend in a year and he's too busy.
Eee.
And he has a kid and he can't help me and he
Right.
stops being a partner. People don't think about this stuff. And so all of a sudden, John has 50% of the company, but he's not doing anything. So that's why I'm always like, don't be so eager to give away ownership of stuff. But when it's appropriate, hell yeah, you should.
This is something that I'm actually currently going through because, with new projects and just with time, not for the first time, I'm seeing this comment on here, we've actually hired horn players and session players on our first full length album that we did, Woman in Motion. I'm actually trying out a couple companies that I've never tried before. I'm trying out a company for a drummer for this project that I'm working on. But just seeing that was a question even that I had, where depending on how much they contribute, how do I feel? Do I want to give them a little something? Like, is it cool for these artists? Am I taking advantage, or I'm just getting these, hired guns at a cheap rate that are just doing a whole bunch? Like, there's a lot of questions that I'm having with it. But as I go through that journey, I'll update you guys on it, because I think it's an important question, as we are, as artists, as musicians, trying to find a way to earn money. I think it's really interesting.
Music Attorney is your #1 legal resource for artists, producers, and record labels. Get contract templates, one-on-one legal advice, free master classes, and everything you need for your music business. Go to topmusicattorney.com.
Do you have a checklist of what to do from an independent creator's perspective? For example, if someone wanted to cover your song or use it for any other reason, what's the best route to get content covered by Content ID, etc.? Thanks.
Yeah, so and I know this kind of came up with issues with sampling, and that's what producers are running into on YouTube, right? So the original owner puts it into Content ID, and then a licensee makes their version and puts it into Content ID, and then they're conflicting, and it's just like a mess. So as far as being the original rights holder, just make sure you do in fact have it in Content ID, and then if someone's gonna cover it, it can get tricky. But the reason why we have it the way it is right now, so for example, on YouTube, record labels go and monetize your cover song because they're like, oh, this is a Justin Bieber cover. And so they monetize on your video rather than striking it, rather than asking you to take it down because you didn't get a sync license, which you are supposed to do. Okay. But they would rather make money off of your version. So they then will just go and monetize because of the Content ID. So it works both ways. It's helpful for the original owner, but it can be just very frustrating for producers and, rights holders for samples.
Absolutely. So this was on the cover video. The cover video has been very popular. People wanting to know how to legally cover songs. What would the guitar instrumental version of a song be considered?
It may not. So you have to be careful on this. This is one of those kind of nuanced things that comes up from time to time on if you are doing a cover of someone else's song, but you only do an instrumental, is it really a cover? Because you just took out the words, right? You took out, potentially the melody. Sometimes we play the melody with the guitar. It may not be a cover. You have to be careful of that. So you may have done, let's say, an interpolation. You might be, it wouldn't be sampling if you're creating your own version, right? So you got to be a little bit careful of that. It might not be a cover anymore.
What if you're a streamer and you want to work on cover songs live on stream? How would that work legally? If I was dissecting the song to educate the audience, what would be considered fair use?
Yeah, so if you're doing a live stream and you're showing your process, I would qualify that under fair use, right? So fair use, it's funny, I just did an opinion letter the other day for someone who's doing a documentary. And so like, hey, we use like other people's pictures and video clips and stuff like that. Is it fair use? So when you're doing fair use analysis, it's like in certain categories, like education. On this channel, I react to music videos. On this channel, I talk about, different people and use their pictures. I'm okay to do that under fair use because I am transforming the use and I'm using it for commentary, criticism, education. So in the instance of like a cover song, if you are live streaming, you could argue what you're doing is educational. And you're like, look at my process. Look at this. Look at that. So there's an argument there, but I always I'm going to, caveat, fair use is the defense to a claim of copyright infringement. So it's not just like you're free to go kind of thing. So that's why we take time to actually like analyze it and we just make sure we're okay to go. but that's what I would say may apply for a live stream.